Hello, I'm George Gonzalez, and I'm obsessed with making games. Today is Multiplayer Monday, so we're going to talk about multiplayer stuff. I had someone ask me a question that I want to answer, and they are just starting out in multiplayer games, and they're wondering like, where do I find more information? Most of the multiplayer information is 2 years plus. How do I know what's working? There's very little documentation or tutorials out there, and I want to answer in detail some of the information that I give, some of the things that are out there, and just go over a few of the options if you're trying to learn multiplayer, or whether you've got hired as a developer and the company needs to figure out how to do a multiplayer game and they're willing to pay you to figure it out and you need to get a fast turnaround. Or maybe you're just trying to build your own multiplayer game. Okay? And you hear a lot about, oh, don't make your first game multiplayer, and you still want to do it regardless. If you think that you got what it takes and you are willing to work hard, yeah, you can do whatever you want. I'm here to save you time and help you out. So we're going to talk about that and give you some of the tips that I have from publishing. I published 2 games in the past 4 years in VR multiplayer titles, and I have a complete playlist here on how to make a Marble Snap game. I went through the process of going from nothing to having a prototype and something that it is actually playable. So first of all, there's 2 things you have to think about when starting multiplayer games and starting the road to multiplayer games. And one is, regardless of what you choose as a multiplayer solution, you will need to get your feet wet. You need to understand how multiplayer games work. There's a different mindset when going into it, and it's hard to really just tell you. And so once you get into it and you start trying to understand and debug the game, the multiplayer games, you'll start to realize how difficult it is. Juggle all the components or the things that you have to put together. I'm trying to help people doing that. So if you look at my multiplayer series, so in here I have a Marble Snap game that I made a playlist, not a one-to-one walkthrough, but it does show you what I did, and it's a working solution. If you go to the end, you'll notice that it works. If I go in here, my channel, you'll see a playlist, and in here I have, let's say, Multiplayer Monday. This playlist has tips on multiplayer mechanics. So I'll show you that, because this is how I'm passing off my experience to you guys about multiplayer setup with only 3 scripts in Fusion, mostly Fusion, because that's what I've learned and I used. Spawning, interactable components, cosmetics, authentication with Fusion, muting options, voice chat, understanding the camera layers, scene transitions, all kinds of things that we've done in here with multiplayer setup. Then the other playlist that I have in here is how to make a Marble Snap type game. Okay, and that series has a bunch of tutorials from beginning to end. And in here at the end, part 11, I show you where we're at, and I actually go through a game, and I show you the click and drag, and kind of we have players and things. So it's showing you like everything from beginning, like the timer, it's real time, kind of like Clash Royale. You have energy at the bottom, and you use the energy to use the cards. It's there and it's working. Yeah, it's not pretty, but the functionality is there in the multiplayer aspect. And I'm playing against myself in another window. Okay, so this works. Okay, so there is. So as a source of information, I'm trying to fill YouTube with information on everything I know about multiplayer setup, which is not a ton. I'm not a pro, but I've done it and I publish games, which is something that not most videos have. As I've researched Fusion or even Fishnet, ObjectNet, you have all these Unity solutions, and most of the time the solutions are very prototype-ish, where it's not a complete build. It's just you in the editor testing things out. And there's a fault in that, because multiplayer games are nice to test out and do things, but once there's other factors into it, multiplayer gets expensive once you release, and you have to start figuring out how to recoup that money. In Fusion, for example, you have these different CCUs, and if you have more players, you just upgrade, right? So I can pay for a year $2,500 for a year. Oh no! I don't want to pay. That was close. I meant to drag myself. So let's say I wanted 1,000 CCU. If that means there's 1,000 players playing at the same time. Okay, so if I have 50 players one day, or at 5 p.m. and then like at 6 p.m. it goes down to 20 and stuff, I'll get charged for the top. So if I have 50 and then it goes to 20 and 30, 50 is the top, the most amount of players that played at one time. And usually there's a peak and then it goes back down. So there's usually a peak time when players are playing your game. Anyways, so 1,000 is a lot. And the fallacy is that, like it's so success like it's so good when you have so many players because you're having success because it means that you have enough traction for your game and you can pay for it. Well, you can pay for it if you're getting enough money. Like let's say you have a paying game, like you pay $10 and you own the game. Okay, how is that going to pay for the service? Because you're gonna that player is playing, let's say for their lifetime. Let's say they play for 5 years. Is the $10 for your game going to cover that cost? Usually not. So for live service games, a lot of developers have in-app purchases because you have to be able to find ways to recoup the money and cover the cost because you can't give away something for free that costs you a monthly or a yearly fee. And the other thing is, this is not all of it. This is not the only thing you have to pay for. There's also bandwidth. See this 3 terabytes of traffic? If you're not good at code, like if you don't pay attention to what you're doing with the network objects, this thing is going to run out and then you're going to have to pay overages. And they usually have a price set for paying over that. So you get 3 terabytes, but if that's bandwidth. So for example, if you have 10 players and you are every tick you're updating player like a transform, that's that transform, whatever that transform cost you in bandwidth times 10. The more players you have, it's not just a matter of can I have multiple players. Like if you have 200 players in your game, this is gonna go skyrocket, and you're gonna be paying a lot for bandwidth because anything you do is gonna multiply by 200, and that's crazy. And so it's not so much can you do it, but it's like can you afford it. So there's tips and tricks on how to do that so that you can do that without doing so much charge. And those are things that I'm going to cover in video on how to tips and tricks on networking solutions and how people usually improve bandwidth and other things. When I first started learning about multiplayer, it was because a company hired me make games, and we decided we were going to do a multiplayer game. It's like we need to figure out which is the best version for us. We're a VR game, and I was always eyeing Fusion, even though like I saw there was other solutions out there, and there was nothing out there. Like I had to learn it, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I had to figure out through documentation. There's a lot that they don't tell you out there. I purchased like 2 different multiplayer tutorials or workshops to get better with multiplayer, even after I learned multiplayer. Because even now I'm still learning and trying to improve what I do as a developer for multiplayer games. But at the time I was like, okay, like I was able to do it. I got my feet wet, but I want to know from other people that are better than me, and I'd be willing to pay to learn to get better. And I did. I paid a couple $100s for different courses. One ended up being trash failure. It was like very like basic Unity NGO like a relay, which I think is a little bit BS because it's very just noobish. Unity is very new still, and it doesn't have all the robust things that Fusion does have. But anyway, so I paid for that. I looked at it, I tried it a little bit, but it wasn't worth it. Then I did another one where the developer is very well known and he has a lot of skills. And I learned a lot from his code alone. But the multiplayer experience, don't think was there. The project never finished. Never taught the stuff that actually matters for deploying. Like a lot of tutorials out there get you to make a game and have it kind of like right there. Like there's no publishing, right? It's just kind of, oh, you finished the game, good job. Okay, but like the game itself would not work in a published environment because you have so many other things that come with publishing a game, like actually like passing different tests, being able to like use usernames. If you have multiplayer games, are they going to have voice chat or just regular chat where they type? Are you going to monitor that, censoring names if you're going to let them play whatever name, or just getting their username, then logging them into a backend and then keeping track of that backend, and that game working in an environment where people can download it into their apps and play it and actually go through it, the whole experience, like from beginning to end. And the tutorials don't do that usually. They don't bother giving you like, this is how you would make a game and publish it, because there's so much overhead with the publishing of a game. And sometimes the tutorials say they have experience, but like they don't teach it. And so that's why I want to breach the gap and focus on experience-based multiplayer or experience-based game. Things that work and that you could build an APK, build a Steam client, something that you could put on Steam, something that you could put on Meta, something that you could put on mobile or on Google Play Store or Apple. I'm not going to go over the individual things, but that's why I have Endgame Devs, a community where I help you one-on-one to help you with your project and actually like give you a heads up on what you need so that you can publish your game, not just like make a game, but actually either make money or actually be able to publish it out there so people can play your game. How would you find out the best solution? So one thing to figure out, aside from getting your feet wet, it doesn't matter. I think don't let it paralyze you, this decision of choosing a network solution. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot out there that's missing, okay? Regardless of that, you need the experience. You need to get your feet wet. No one's going to be able to just tell it to you. You have to like get in and do it. And so, first of all, if you're not doing VR, if you're just doing Steam or whatever, I really believe nowadays, as of today, July 2025, and it'll be true in 2026, 2027 at least. Fusion's been around a long time. Fusion 2 will. I mean, there's people still using Pun, like kids making millions of dollars of Pun, and it's been obsolete for years. And so I wish I would have used Pun like some other 14-year-olds that are making a ton of money in VR right now. And so I'm telling you this because, like, really, like, you can do anything as long as you're willing to go through the learning hurdles. Fusion has a lot of samples now. They have starters, they have VR 200 where you can have 200 players. You have simple, all these samples you can download and kind of dig through. These are great and they're free. So I think it's great. Even if you're not going to publish, when you're starting out as a developer in multiplayer games, you have to figure out which multiplayer version you vibe with. Maybe Fusion has a high learning curve. That's the main con of Fusion, and the bandwidth. Like, it is a lot better with the samples, and you can get kind of like in there and figure it out. They also have what they called Quantum, which I also a high ceiling, but they do all the simulation, the physics are done in their servers. So Unity has less bandwidth to work with, or less things to do. And I wish I knew Quantum, but for me, for example, I wish I could learn Quantum. If someone had like a course on it based on experience, like they've developed a VR game in Quantum with physics, I would definitely pay. Like, it would be worth at least $1,000 to learn, because it's such a high skill ceiling, or it's just a high learning curve. It's really hard, and it would take me a lot of time. They have samples again, and I have no problems. Like, they have this cart. So if you wanted to make physics game cart, this is great. I've seen people usually opt in for using Unity NGO regardless of what other things. So, like, it doesn't really matter at the beginning if you're willing to just learn and shift. It's just hard because regardless, the moment you choose a network solution, after you've gone through all the pain, it's really hard to want to do something else, because you are not going to want to go through that again, because it's painful. But I've seen. So let me tell you a little bit about these other solutions. So Fusion and Quantum, high learning curve, but they're good. Like, I even don't know everything about Fusion, and I've been doing it for 3-4 years now, maybe 4. And I started with Fusion and then Fusion 2. But now I'm getting the hang of it. There's some things that I don't like with the scene transition, and I mentioned that in my videos. So right now, I'm trying to learn Normcore. The problem is that it's really hard to put the time in to learn something new. And like I said, I wanted to learn Quantum, but I have no idea when I'm going to sit down and actually figure it out. There's not much out there, but I'd be willing to pay someone $1,000 to teach me how to do Quantum. Like, that's the thing, is like, it would help a lot. So that's why I'm offering my help with Fusion, because that I know and it can help. I'm figuring out Normcore for VR. I think Normcore for VR is great. I'm going to talk about Fishnet. Fishnet has like a free version and a pro version. This pro version is $50 one-time fee, and then it's lifetime. It used to be $60, but now it's $50, and you own it for life. This is Fishnet free. Let me move my head again. But Fishnet is free. These other ones, I don't know. ObjectNet is the same thing as Normcore. Fishnet. It's 50% off right now. But those are the main ones. The issue with Fishnet and ObjectNet is that they're free because they don't host it. They give you the code to create multiplayer things. You still need somewhere to host the code, whether it's you're doing Relay or server authoritative, like headless. You still have to figure that out. And so for me, that's a big no. Even ObjectNet, in here you have, I'm trying to remember, they say, okay, in here they tell you Steam. So most of the time, if you're doing Steam, probably this one's easy. But if you're doing something else, it's gonna be hard, because you're gonna have to figure out where where you store it. Amazon, Azure, and so you have a third party. I'm gonna give you a story right now, because we went through this as a studio. Okay, we created. Let me go to the actual solution here. We went with Monkey Do. We used Fusion 1. We had problems. We released early access, and we had a lot of hacking. And the problem with Fusion is that their support is also not the best. I personally don't like their support. Fusion has this called Circle membership, and it's getting even like worse with the pricing and stuff. But it was like $500 a month at least. If I look at products, they have Circle, and it's really bananas now. They have like all these things, Starter Pro, and you look at here per month per seat, or unless this one 5 seats. And imagine paying for support $1,000 and having to wait 24 hours, right? Like, why are you paying then? We got hacked, and we were paying Circle membership, and they were in Germany, somewhere in Europe. And so they're off by like almost 12 hours, plus or minus. And so when you get up in the morning, 7, 9 a.m., they are already like taking off, right? They're done with their day, 6 p.m., done, boom, peace. And so I would have to be at 2 a.m. hoping, like, when they reply, I get a notification. It's like, oh crap, they're emailing me. And then I get up at 2 a.m. literally and just email them because I was so concerned with our problems that we needed help. And so I would get up at 2 in the morning to message them. And it was awful. Not the 2 a.m. thing. The timing, the time difference is not as big deal. The problem is the response time. And because I think that time difference also it gave us problems because it added to that 24-hour timeline. It also didn't work Saturdays and Sundays or holidays and stuff. So like the thing is, the live service games are on 24/7, regardless of when you clock in. So it's crazy to me to think that you have paid support that's not 24/7. Why make it so much if you're not going to even help with a live service game? So anyway, so this bananas for me. I do not like it. I had a very bad experience with Gaming Circle. And so if you're in Europe, maybe it's better. If you're not going to need support, then it's okay. So what happened is we decided to refactor the whole game and take out Fusion and do it like the whole game. Took us 7 months to go from nothing to early access, which was really great because I got up to speed really fast and I was able to get something out. And it was just 2 devs and we got early. The problem was, okay, so here's part of the story that I want to give you that I don't think anyone will be able to experience because no one's willing to waste this much money. What we had to do is we had to make a decision. Are we going to refactor? How long is it going to take us? And what are we going to do while we're doing that? And the great thing was that I'm able to give you guys numbers on kind of like landmark or how much it cost for us. It was a VR game, and it's not like exact numbers, but around it cost us $3,500 a month to run our service. We had like more than 2,000 concurrent, so we had the max that we could in Fusion. So if we had the dashboard in here, apps, public. I want to show you because this is important. This is stuff that you'll never get anywhere else because not many people talk about it. And we had this like the highest. We had the highest. We were paying that. I think we did the monthly payment because it kept growing as we launched. So we were like we kept having to upgrade. It was like okay, like just put the max. But we didn't know how long we were going to be with that many CCUs. So we didn't want to pay month to month because we might go down, might go up. The reality is it's just better to pay the year, like, and run it for a year and then you're good. The main problem is that this was not enough. And so even though the cost was $500 a month, $3,000 was what we had to pay for overage because we were a VR game. I think we had 6 players, max, maybe 8. I don't remember. I think 6 because we couldn't do more than 6 because of bandwidth. Also, if you have players from Europe and US at the same time, it costs more, like from someone from Europe to whether it's. But if you have them each on their own servers, then it costs less within that, if that makes sense. So if you let the regions work out themselves, it's less costly, not by a huge margin, but depends on how big your game is. And so a lot of that fallacy I was talking about later, oh, it's so good. Like if you have a lot of players, you'll be successful. No, it's not true because like if your code is sucky and like I was new to the thing, so like my fault for not knowing, but we had Circle membership and we never got help on that. And we would try to get as much help as we could, but it wasn't really helpful for us because we would not get the advice that needed. It was Circle membership for us was just another Discord with more people. And those people were just also paying the membership. So they were a little bit more serious about their games. So most of the people in there published games. So it was nice to be able to talk to other developers that actually published games. But it was very like, okay, why wouldn't we just make our own group and do it for free? Like, and so it didn't make sense. So they wanted other people to answer the questions for them. They didn't want to provide support. They just want to pocket in more money. And so it wasn't very good for us. But that was my experience and what we dealt with. So we switched over. But I'm telling you the prices because, okay, we were at, let's say, $3,500. Give or take, $500 in the monthly cost and $3,000 in overages because we were wasting more traffic per month. We were over budget. After 15 days within the month, it was just already at 100. And then the rest of the 15 days was like blowing it up on more bandwidth. And I brought it up and our CEO didn't want to fix it. So it's like we were fixing other things. So it's like, it's not we don't need to. It's okay. It's like one of the least things that like cost-effective things that we could do. There's other things that we could do to improve revenue and grow, and the bandwidth wasn't a big deal. But the other problem, okay, so let's say, imagine if you were to say, okay, can you make the same game and get different stats? Like what would it take with Fishnet or Normcore? Would it cost the same? Yes or no? Well, it's hard to answer because you would have to like literally make the same game, launch it with the same audience, and track the stats. Well, that's what we did. We refactor and we launched the second version of Monkey Do to the same audience and released in Meta. So we released in the official store before it was mixed with AppLab. So our game was on AppLab. It was doing success. And so then we shifted, we changed, we refactored, took 7 more months again Even though we knew what the code wanted, there was a lot of changes that happened along the way to improve it, and a new horror mode that we added. But at the end of the day, guess what? The cost was the same. We had a headless server using Fishnet, uh, and the cost of bandwidth and stuff. At the end of the day, it was around the same thing, 3,500. So it, it was the same. So what I'm saying is that these prices are pretty fair. Okay, and if you're good, you can actually lower the cost of owning your own servers. It's a lot cheaper. That's what I'm saying. Because, and let me tell you that hosting your own server is a nightmare. I'm going to tell you what it takes, and I wish we had a Unity solution for this. This is the other part that I want to share with you guys because it's something that's not readily available. That at some point you're going to have to figure out if you want to publish games and they're multiplayer. Some of the things that you have to deal with. We decided, okay, we're going to do headless servers because we don't want to do. We're gonna protect our servers and be able to shut them down when we need to in case there's a hacker or something. We were able to even like shut down the servers when we got hacked. Like someone got hacked and they were like cheating in the game, and the Fusion's like, oh, you have to wait 24 hours. But then the hacker would just go in again and do it for another 24 hours, leave, and automate some script that did something. It was awful. And so we had to upload a game and stuff, and then people could play on the new one. But it was a hectic nightmare. So we decided, okay, we're going to do headless server, Fishnet. Okay, cool. So we were doing that, but then we're like, well, we have to actually test the deployment stuff. And so where are we going to host the servers? We first, because we had backend on PlayFab, we said, well, PlayFab has server hosting, so we can host it there. We were trying to build, but then PlayFab is very like, there's very little tutorials. They're all outdated. And we got to the point where it had the servers figured out, and we upload them, and we were testing them, but they weren't connecting. And it was such a nightmare to like debug and figure out that. I was like, nope, PlayFab, no go. Their support wasn't very supportive. Again, like support is huge. And that's why I said, like, if you're going to do headless servers, go with Unity. Or if you're going to go use Unreal, right? If you're going to do first-person shooter multiplayer, just do Unreal. It's fine. Or Unity is fine too. They have the Fusion set up. But most part, Unity is pretty good if you're going to do headless servers, I would say. Because another example is the next thing we went with, Unity had the hosting solution. They didn't have full multiplayer game out that yet, but they had servers ready where you could upload a server and host your own stuff. And so we did Fishnet and Unity, but we got errors and problems, and their support again did not help. Like we were stuck where we get an error. It's like we have no idea why this is not failing. It wouldn't pass like their test when we try to upload the server because they run some automated arguments, and we had everything because we had to have arguments in the server so that they could inject different functions or functionality or start protocols and all that. But it wouldn't pass certain tests. And at that point, we had so many plugins in the game that we did not know why it was doing that and why it didn't pass. And their support team did not help us. Like they left, we don't know, or like they would say nothing. We would be on Slack, and so it's like, okay, no go. Because again, we're like on a deadline. Like we have to get this thing done. So we saw this video on Playflow, and we ended up deciding to go with Playflow, which the servers right now for Monkey 2 are still on Playflow using Fishnet. And honestly, their solution was really great. Playflow is great for, and they are always improving. We were probably one of the bigger titles that had a lot of players, and so we were able to stress test their servers. But then you have to figure out matchmaking on your own with Fishnet. You have to figure out how to run the servers. Like Fishnet doesn't take care of running servers, right? Like you have to create the logic for running servers. We also had to do a back end. We had to write another solution somewhere. We had Python scripts that would run the servers and do the logic for how many servers there were, which servers the players were in, all these things that Fusion already did for us. So at the end of the day, like doing a headless server had a lot of upfront cost of dev time that Fusion didn't have. And so my advice is, if you heard the story, the summarized version is, if you want to do a headless server, use Unity. Do NGO, because Unity has all the stuff now. It has the multiplayer setup, it has the hosting servers, and as long as you're doing everything within Unity, it's fine. Having to do third-party stuff is annoying because then you're like connecting like different blocks that don't fit together and trying to like retrofit them to work. And so it was crazy because we had Fusion before, which not ideal. But then when we switched to Fishnet, people say, "Oh, Fishnet's great. Fishnet's great." Okay, but like it's not just Fishnet. You need a server, so you need to host them, and then you need something to spin up the servers. Like where's the code that's going to do that? So you have to come up with it. So like it's not just Fishnet. We had Fishnet, Playflow, and Python Anywhere or Python. Like we had to host Python code somewhere. And so 3 things to replace one. And so yes, we were doing hostless servers and headless servers and other things. But I'm telling you, like at the end of the day, it ended up costing the same. So like, why go through the headache of doing headless servers unless you are confident in your skills? And that's okay. There's people that do it. And those geniuses are out there. So my thought is, if you're one of those geniuses that can spin up headless servers, then teach people, but teach something that we can all do and apply, right? And so if you are for Fishnet, then create tutorials, help people out on how to do the whole 9 yards, everything. And so that was my experience. So Fishnet is nice. Now, ObjectNet, you just have to figure out where you're going to host it, how you're going to do matchmaking, spinning up servers, figuring out all that. Like, it's nice that it's cheap. It's just a one-time fee, but it's because they don't do anything else. Like, it's just the code for the multiplayer setup. You still have to host it somewhere. You have to figure out matchmaking and other things. And then you have Fish Fusion and Quantum, and then Normcore. But how do I find these out? Usually what I do is I talk to other devs in the industry, right? We have other players. I've worked on Sail, and I know the developer of Sail. I'm the owner of the company, and they use Normcore, and they've had a great time. And so I say so a lot. The difference is that getting feedback from people that have done it is 100 times better than someone that hears it, that says one thing, but they don't have proof to back it up. And so my advice is to talk to people that have published games. If you can't find them, then you need more research, right? You can play the games, download a game that you want to emulate. See if you can reach out to the developers or give them a review and say, hey, like, love the game. Would love to learn how you guys went about making it, what you used, or you can comment on their YouTube channel. Usually they have social media and you can reach out to them. That's one way to find others. The other is, again, like I said, Endgame Devs. That's where I'm at, trying to help and provide this information because it's not readily available. And so if you're in VR, I've known of a lot of titles in VR. And like I told you, a lot of other, like some use Fusion. There's also the developer that made Gorilla Tag is now making, it just released, or it's in early access, Orion Drift. And that's made in Unreal. And it has 200 players per server. So it can be done in both. There's no reason why you can do one or the other. It's just a matter of what are you willing to pay in time and price and money for learning that. And most of it is out there. Yes, there's not a lot of tutorials on it, and that's why I'm getting now into making YouTube tutorials to help you understand the concepts of what you're looking for. There's a lot of things that you need to understand. And so my advice, again, is if you are doing PC clients, it's not a big deal. Steam usually has a lot of solutions. Like I said, if you have Fishnet, you can host stuff on Steam. Like in here, ObjectNet is a great solution for Steam. If you're going to do Steam transport, you'll figure out how to host it on Steam and use their stuff. Still a learning curve. If you're doing VR, Normcore is really easy. They have the templates. They're very helpful. Support-wise, they're excellent. If you're willing to bite the bullet and actually like not care about support, and you want future-proof and actually like high ceiling learning, like there's a lot to learn from Fusion and Quantum. They have area of interest. There's a lot of cool things about it. The main thing I don't like is the scene loading on how to connect to other scenes and stuff. The connection is very weird, and they make it sound like it's how every game should be done, and it's not. And so yeah, it's really kind of off-putting, but that's how they made it work. But if they have a lot of things to optimize code and area of interest for kind of LOD system for network solution, Quantum again is top of the line, like really cool stuff with physics. They have a lot of cool stuff, but again, like you have to be willing to learn a lot, but it pays dividend in the end. Unity network solution, if you're doing headless servers, I would advise just learn Unity. I think it's okay to learn Unity. The main thing you have to understand is, for example, there's certain features that are not available yet, or that you have to code yourself. So for example, one that I enjoy from Fusion, a lot of network solutions don't have, Normcore doesn't have it, and Unity doesn't have it, is host migration. It's a huge, like you might think it's not a big deal, but it is. A lot of people disconnect all the time. So if the host or the person in charge leaves, what happens? And if you don't do anything for it, your game goes boop, because there's no one in charge, and the variables just go boom, done. And so you either shut everything down and let people reconnect or whatever, or you actually have logic to change ownership. Fusion has that by default. Quantum has that probably by default, I'm guessing, but it is super doable in Fusion. So I love that, and I'm getting the hang of it now, of all the setup. But again, it's kind of like a nightmare to work with support and other things. I'm trying to figure out, right? Because like there's a different mindset even within multiplayer games. Things that in Fishnet and ObjectNet and other solutions are easily understood. Fusion is not as much, even within the multiplayer space. Okay, so if you're doing a first-person shooter multiplayer game, probably Unreal is just as good to figure out and to do. The main thing, the last gotcha that you gotta remember is if you're having problems with LAN or testing it, oftentimes like even headless servers and stuff, there's a lot of firewall and window options that you have to go through to be able to connect. Like if I spin up a server on my computer and then I have another player in my same computer trying to connect, because you think they'd be already connected, but sometimes they're not, because you might have like a VP, like a different server, like you have a um, you have a different type of server, and you can't connect. Like you have a different connection, like you have firewalls and other things that you have to go. And sometimes you're emulating computer it for the server to host, and so you have to connect, and it has a different IP address and stuff. So there's different things that you have to figure out to test things depending on like your solution and whatnot. Depending also on all these. So if you have more questions, comment below. Like, are there any that I haven't mentioned? Do you have expertise? Share it with the community. If you want to know more, let me know. I'll continue to make multiplayer videos every Monday based on what I'm learning and what I've learned, or what questions come up, what people have, how to research, because there's very little out there. Especially like you think about, you have this many people. Let's say this many people making games, this many people making multiplayer games, and then within that you have the different solutions, and within that actually people that published, right? So most of the content out there is kind of like based on documentation and not publishing experience, which can be detrimental, because there's a lot of gotchas that I wish I could have gone back and done. And that's why I'm doing these videos, because it's videos from people that are in my spot where I was 4 or 5 years ago. Hopefully this helped. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and if you need any help, let me know.